Hey everyone, my name is Katie Robertson. I'm the founder and director for the Anchor Gathering, and this is the Anchor Moment, and I want to tell you a little bit about what that is. It's a time we get to hear from a guest a little bit about their life, their faith journey, and an anchor moment. And that is a time that someone has had their faith grounded and they've seen Jesus for real in their lives. So we are so excited at this time you get to hear firsthand a personal story from one of our guests, and we hope that you'll be encouraged.
It is so great to be here at the Anchor. My name is McKerlich, and a little bit about myself. I am 61 years young. I'm married to an amazing man named Ian. We've got 2 children. My daughter Taylor is 27 right now. My son Logan just turned 25. I graduated from the University of Victoria in beautiful British Columbia with a degree in education, and I've taught for many, many years. So a little bit about my faith journey. I grew up in a Christian home. We went to a Roman Catholic church every Sunday, but there was never really any talk about Jesus Christ, who he was, what he meant to us. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I came to the understanding that I could actually have a personal relationship with my Savior, with my Creator. My faith really started to bloom and really started to grow and started to see changes in me and my character because of my seeking of him. So how have I seen Jesus to be real in my life? My identity growing up was that of an athlete. I was a runner, a tennis player. I played them all, and I loved my sport. So when I was studying at the University of Victoria, I had a running scholarship, and the 400 and the 800 meters, well, those were my race. And I loved that recognition. I loved seeing my name in the newspaper and photos in the newspaper. And you know what? I think I was a little bit prideful. Well, I know I was. I loved that. In 2005, that all changed. And I remember we had a dog named Rufus, a yellow lab, and I had 2 young children at the time. My son was in grade 5. My daughter was in grade 7. And I would head out and go running through the trails with Rufus. And I would let him off leash, and I loved watching him just run and just being in the elements and outdoors. And I just reveled in exercising in nature. But my legs were getting weak, and my hands were getting shaky, and my balance was starting to become untethered, and I would trip and I would fall and I would stumble, and I knew something was going on. My legs were getting heavy, and it felt as if when I was running or walking even, it felt as if I was trying to move through quicksand. It was just very labor intensive trying to move. So I went to visit the neurologist, and that's when the diagnoses started coming. They thought I had Lou Gehrig's. Another neurologist thought I had Guillain-Barré. And then the next neurologist thought that I had MS. And even still today, neurologists don't have a name for what I have. I have a disease with no name. It's somewhere between chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy and multifocal motor neuropathy. During the progression of the disease, I would be passed from one neurologist to the next, to the next, to the next, to try to figure out what was wreaking havoc on my body. And it got to the point whereby in 2009, I was completely paralyzed from my neck down to my toes. I could move my head, and I could move that one index finger. And I was confined to a 500-pound power wheelchair that I operated with my head. Imprisoned in that wheelchair brought such fear. The progression of the disease was getting to the place whereby it had started to attack my internal organs, and it was going to take my life. And the neurologist at the time, Dr. Weiss, put me into hospitals for over 5.5 months. Over 7.5 months. And during that time, He gave me every month a complete blood plasma transfusion, and then a few days later, followed by some of the most intensive kind of chemotherapy that a human being can endure. And with that protocol, his hope was that it would stop the progression of the disease from taking my life and possibly bring back a little bit of strength. But beyond the wheelchair, there was just no hope. During my suffering, God drew so close. Jesus drew so near to me. I've never quite experienced that. It was undeniable. His presence was undeniable. Nobody understood or could relate to what I was going through in that paralyzed state. Such confusion, such turmoil, such darkness, and yet God knew exactly where it was. So 7.5 months later, coming out of the University of Washington, discharged back home, my neurologist wanted to see me. And so I went in for my appointment, and at the time I was using an upright platform walker. And I remember Dr. Weiss was standing in the hallway working on some charts. And he looks up and then does a double take when he realizes who it is that he's seeing coming down the hallway. You see, he'd never seen me in a standing position before. And as I moved closer to him, I noticed that he's got tears rolling down his cheeks. And he comes up to me and puts his hands on either side of my shoulder. And he says, "Allie, I can tell you this now because you're walking. But there was nobody who thought that you could make it beyond the wheelchair." And you know, when I think that I was at the University of Washington and Harborview, which are two of the most well-known neurological centers, not just in the States, but in the world, you can only imagine how many neurologists and interns I had circling through my room to try to figure out what this disease was that was wreaking havoc on my body. So where I'm at now, I am living a full life. No more power wheelchairs, no more platform walkers, no more canes. I wear braces on my legs because I never got strength back in my ankles. So I have a drop foot, and if I don't wear those, I'm tripping all over the place. And as you can see, my hands have a lot of atrophy in them. Zippers, buttons, and shoelaces are not my friends. But I am kayaking, I'm walking, I'm gardening. I lead Bible study through Bible Study Fellowship, BSF, Global BSF. I do a lot of volunteering, and I'm living life, and I'm loving life. God blessed me with a miracle. Neurologists cannot explain why I am walking, but we all know the Master Healer can do the unimaginable, and he did that with me. So you're probably wondering what this sculpture is back here. It is my most valued piece of artwork. It was created by my son, Logan. This is a bronzed version of it because the one he gave me is made of tinfoil and wire, coat hangers and spray paint. But when I was in the hospitals, my son came up for a visit, and he had made this sculpture in grade 5 with the art docent. And he catapults up onto my bed and plunks this down on my lap. And he says, "Mommy, I made this for you." And at the time, I wasn't standing, I wasn't walking, still really, 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 really weak. No strength had returned. And it had been about 5 months of being in the hospital. And I looked at this. I couldn't hold it up at that time because my arms weren't working. But I looked at this and I said, "Logan, when I look at this sculpture, I see me. Albeit I'm standing up on wobbly legs, but I'm standing. And my arms are outstretched because I am praising the Lord for his miraculous healing." It hadn't happened yet, but I never gave up hope that it could.